I was 25 when I went camping with my girlfriend, Megan. The plan was simple. A weekend with no internet, no distractions, just something to break the routine. Megan is the kind of person who plans everything, so she picked a small campground with only a handful of sites, tucked at the end of a long dirt road. The reviews all said the same thing: quiet, family-friendly, peaceful. We got there in the late afternoon. There was a single portable toilet, an old water spigot, and a narrow loop road that led to the sites. Almost every spot was empty. The only thing that stood out was a red hatchback parked off to one side, with no one around it. We set up our tent, built a small fire, and ate. Around 10, I walked to the bathroom. On the way back, I was lighting the ground with my phone flashlight, half asleep already. And when I reached our site, I nearly dropped it. There was a man sitting at our picnic table like he'd been there the whole time. He was older, maybe late 40s or early 50s, with a weathered face and a dark jacket pulled tight against the cold. He raised both hands immediately. "Sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to scare you." Megan stepped closer to me, tense. I asked him who he was. "Name's Ray," he said, nodding toward the red hatchback. "That's my car." He looked tired, not drunk, not goofy. Tired in a way that made his eyes look sharp and restless. He kept glancing past us, toward the tree line, like he expected something to move. Megan asked what he wanted. Ray lowered his voice. "Lock your car, and if you hear someone call your name out here, don't answer." I gave a nervous laugh. "Why?" Ray stared into the dark woods for a beat too long. "Because somebody out here likes testing people." Then he stood up. The strange part was how he left. No flashlight, no crunch of gravel. He just stepped into the darkness and disappeared between the trees like he knew every root and rock by memory. Megan said he was probably just some weirdo trying to scare tourists. I wanted to believe that. But I slept light, waking up at every little sound. Sometime after midnight, I woke to the faint scrape of paper against glass. I sat up, listening. It happened again. Soft, deliberate. I eased out of the tent and walked to the car. One of the windshield wipers was lifted. Tucked under it was a folded piece of a trail map. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. On the back, written in messy block letters, it said, "If you hear the bell, it's already too late." And on the map itself, someone had drawn a bold X right on top of our campsite. I woke Megan. While she stared at the paper, we saw headlights flare near the entrance of the campground. The red hatchback was starting up. Ray was leaving. I ran to the loop road and waved my phone light. The car rolled to a stop. The window lowered just a few inches, like he didn't want it open all the way. He looked at me and asked, almost calmly, "You found it, didn't you?" I showed him the map. Ray closed his eyes for a second, like he hated being right. "Then you need to go," he said. "Now, before it gets fully dark." "It's already dark," I snapped, more scared than angry. "Who's doing this?" Ray shook his head. "I don't know who. I just know what happens when you stay." Then he pointed past me, toward the woods on the far side of the loop road. "They post up where they can see the road." I turned my flashlight toward the tree line. Between two trunks, far off but unmistakable, was a silhouette standing perfectly still, like it wasn't hiding, just watching. The light hit it. It didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't move at all. My throat went dry. Megan grabbed my arm. "We're leaving," she whispered. We tore the campsite down in a panic, shoving everything into the car without folding or organizing. As I slammed the trunk, I noticed something on the hood. It wasn't scratches, it was red paint. A clear handprint, pressed hard, like someone had planted their palm and pushed. Beneath it, in crooked letters, someone had written, "Don't take what's ours." I went cold, because we hadn't taken anything. Not a rock, not a stick, nothing. I checked the trunk like I expected to find something impossible inside. Megan dumped her backpack out on the seat, frantic, swearing she didn't grab anything by accident. That's when we heard it. A thin metallic sound, faint in the distance. A single bell chime, and then silence. Megan's eyes were wide. Was that a bell? I didn't answer. I just got in, started the car, and drove. At the first bend in the dirt road, Megan pointed, shaking. 3 silhouettes stood in the woods too close to the road, not trying to hide. One of them slowly lifted an arm and waved. Slow, casual, like it was wishing us a safe trip. And then the worst detail hit. Megan leaned toward me and whispered, "Don't look, just go." But from the left side of the road, where there was nothing but dark trees, I heard a voice say my name. It was Megan's voice. Perfect. Identical. Except Megan was sitting right beside me, and her mouth was closed. A cold shock ran up my neck. Every instinct in my body screamed to turn my head. I didn't. I didn't answer. I just drove, gripping the wheel so hard my hands hurt. The bell rang again, 2 quick chimes this time, closer, like it was moving alongside us through the trees. Then it stopped. I didn't slow down until we hit cell service. I called the police and tried to explain where we were. The dispatcher asked for the campground's name. When I checked the GPS, it didn't have one, just coordinates. I tried to find that entrance again later. I couldn't. Not on maps, not on apps, nothing. And to this day, if someone calls my name from far away, I wait a heartbeat before I turn my head, because I learned the hard way that sometimes a voice can sound perfect and still not be human. My dad and I always loved camping. It was our way of escaping the routine, the noise of the city, the bills, the problems. Just the 2 of us, a tent, a campfire, and the sound of nature. This time, we chose a remote park. It wasn't completely isolated, but it wasn't crowded either. There were hiking trails, a small river, an organized camping area. During the day, it looked like something out of a commercial. Families riding bikes, kids running around, the smell of charcoal and marshmallows in the air. The first night was perfect. Campfire lit. Simple food, a few laughs, nothing out of the ordinary. If the story had ended there, I would never be telling it. On the second day, something already felt different. We went to the park office to charge our phones and buy a few things. That's when the employee casually mentioned, "You're the only ones camping here tonight." I remember looking at my dad and smiling. An entire campground just for us. At the time, it felt like luck. Now I see it as a warning. We spent the day walking the trails, but as the sun started to set, a strange feeling began to grow in my chest. It wasn't fear. It was discomfort. Like the environment had shifted frequency. The forest felt denser, quieter, more aware. My dad stopped halfway down the trail and said, "Are you feeling this too?" I didn't want to admit it, but I was. It felt like nature was holding its breath. When night fell, the atmosphere turned heavy. We sat by the fire trying to act normal. Low music playing from a phone, casual conversation. But every time the sound stopped, the silence seemed to scream. And then it happened. A bang, loud, sharp, heavy. It came from the direction of the river. We both stood up at the same time and aimed our flashlights into the darkness. Nothing. No movement. No animals running. Just trees. We tried to laugh. Maybe a log falling. Maybe. A few minutes later, another bang. Closer. Now it didn't sound like something falling. It sounded like something stepping. The third time was impossible to ignore. It came even closer. It wasn't random. It was like it was moving toward our campsite. My stomach dropped. My dad wasn't laughing anymore. He just said, "Get in the tent. Now." We threw the rest of the firewood onto the flames and rushed inside. The fire flared up, lighting part of the surrounding trees. And that's when he stopped at the entrance. He didn't come in. He just stood there, staring into the darkness. I whispered, "Dad." Without taking his eyes off whatever I couldn't see, he replied, "There's something there." My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it. "What is it?" He waited a few seconds. "I don't know, but it's not normal." He got inside quickly and zipped the tent shut. And then, the sound came. It wasn't a roar. It wasn't a scream. It was a vibration. Low, deep, like the air itself was trembling. You didn't just hear it with your ears. You felt it in your chest, in your bones. It was like standing next to a massive engine, except there was nothing there. My breathing became shallow. I wanted to look through the small mesh window of the tent, but something inside me screamed, "Don't look. Don't make noise. Don't draw attention." My dad held a small knife. It was useless. We both knew that. The sound changed. It turned into something guttural, dragged out. It didn't sound like an animal, but it didn't sound human either. It was wrong, completely wrong. And then, we just blacked out. Without realizing it, without deciding to sleep, without remembering the moment we closed our eyes. It was like someone switched us off. I woke up suddenly, gasping, with the feeling that someone had been standing over me. The inside of the tent was dark, too quiet. I grabbed my phone to check the time. Dead. My dad checked his. Also dead. That was impossible. We had fully charged them just hours before. We stepped outside the tent while it was still dark, standing back to back. The air was cold, heavy. The food we had left outside was untouched. No animal had gone near it. The fire? Just ashes, as if hours had passed. But we didn't know how much time we had lost. And worst of all, the forest felt normal again, like nothing had ever happened. We packed up in silence. Neither of us wanted to say out loud what we were thinking. But once we got in the car, my dad finally said, "That wasn't an animal." I agreed. We didn't see it clearly. We have no proof. But we know what we felt. The feeling of being watched, hunted, studied, like something had been there, waiting for us to make a mistake. We never went back to that place. In fact, we never went camping again. And even today, when the silence gets too heavy, I remember that vibration. And I wonder if that night we really woke up, or if something decided it had already seen enough.